Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the channel. My name's Josh, and today what I want to do is walk you through all the different LUT packs that I use to color grade all of my projects. Now, if you've been following along with me for the last few months, you might remember a video I posted a few months ago on how I started using the Gamut SLOG3 conversion LUTs to convert my LOG3 footage into Rec 709 for editing. And really ever since that point, I have been using the Gamut conversion LUTs as well as a few creative packs that I've purchased to do all the color grading on my projects. And today I want to walk you through what all those LUT packs actually look like so you can see if that's something you would want to try out for yourself. Now, a little disclaimer here, Gamut is not sponsoring this video. They have not paid me to make this. They were, however, gracious enough to send me both the Canon and the Sony base LUTs, which are conversion LUTs from log footage to Rec 709. So Gamut did send me those for free, and they also hooked me up with an affiliate link. So if you're interested in actually purchasing some of these LUTs, click the link in the description. I'll get a little bit of kickback from that, and that really will help me out. But Gamut is not in any way paying me to make this video, endorsing this. They have no idea that I'm even making this. Really, I'm just making this because when I was deciding whether or not to buy these specific LUT packs, there was honestly just a deficit of like actual content out there that I could see how these LUT packs actually worked on real footage. What I've done is I've gathered a bunch of different footage shot on both Sony on the FX3 as well as my Canon R3. All of these are shot in log footage, and I'm going to show you basically first how Gamut's conversion LUTs compare to like a generic color space transform in DaVinci Resolve, basically the process of converting log footage to Rec 709 for editing. And then I'm just going to pull up some of these creative LUT packs and just show you what the different LUTs look like on a bunch of this different footage. So all that said, let's go ahead and dive into DaVinci Resolve here, and I'm going to show you how all these LUT packs work. All right, so here we are in DaVinci Resolve, and I just basically have pulled in a bunch of different footage from the FX3 and from the R3. So some of this footage is from Chicago here on the trip that I took down there. I have a couple out here on the coastline of Chicago, just a shot of the city. One of the shots from that little short film of my son that I made. Another shot of him out on the playground. Some just like outside stuff with the trees and all that. Some shots down by the river. Some more like harsh, like direct lighting stuff at sunset in Grand Haven. And then my R3 footage is primarily out on the Oregon coast, but just basically trying to find some footage that had some different color variations. This is obviously inside with, we have greens and some blues and all that, browns. This is kind of, off camera, backlit lighting here. This is more a little bit direct sun. We have obviously some deeper forest, earthy vibes and all that, some super dark greens, and then a little bit brighter with like the ocean and the sky and all that. So basically just trying to find a catalog of a bunch of different footage that will kind of show off how these LUTs actually work and what they do to a bunch of different types of footage. Also, I did grab one clip from my drone. Now this is just an 8-bit clip. My Mavic Air 2 is not a 10-bit recording here. So this is just an 8-bit clip. This has not been converted. This is just straight out of camera. And at the end of the video, I'll just show you how some of the actual creative LUTs look on this footage here, just to kind of give some comparison to the 10-bit stuff that's from the FX3 and the R3. But anyway, that'll come later. For now, I want to show you some of the initial conversions and how that works with the Gamut conversion LUTs. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the Gamut conversion LUTs. So if you're shooting in log footage, your footage obviously looks pretty drab like this, and you're gonna have to find a way to get that footage converted from the log profile that you shot it in into a Rec 709 profile. And Gamut makes these super convenient base LUTs, which they have kind of color calibrated and all that. So this is just a node here with just the conversion on, and you can just see the difference here and how they convert. I've done this with all of this footage. So if we just turn that node on and off, that's what their conversion LUT looks like. This footage, this clip here is a little bit overexposed in general, but it still does a really nice job with kind of bringing some of those colors and shadows. This shot of my son inside, that's the original SLOG3 footage, and then applying the conversion LUT. This is a shot from the car, just some direct sun at sunset downtown. And you can just kind of see the difference that conversion LUT makes. Another clip here of my son out at the playground. Conversion LUT off, and then on the actual playground itself. Just kind of trying to find some shots from a bunch of different situations. Here's one with some direct sunlight. You can just see how it actually kind of retains those tones and all that. So that's with the SLOG3 conversion LUT on. Now, for those of you who are DaVinci Resolve people, I know the first thing you're going to ask is, Josh, why wouldn't you just use like a CST, color space transform node to do all of your conversions? You don't actually have to have a LUT for that. I got you. I thought about that. So what I've done here is this set of footage, this track here is a color space transform layer. This here is the actual Gamut LUT. And so I just want to show you the difference between the Gamut conversion LUT from SLOG3 and then the color space transform. These are exactly the same clips, exactly the same frame. All I've done is I have just enabled the Gamut conversion LUT for this layer, and I've enabled the color space transform for this layer. So let's go ahead and look at this. This is the Gamut conversion here. I can turn off the media pool, make this a little bit bigger for you. So this is the Gamut conversion LUT here. That's the color space transform. So you can see right there, there's a lot of really good tones in those shadows. You get a lot of that blue from the skyscrapers and stuff that the color space transform does not catch. I feel like the highlights look pretty similar here, but there's definitely like a different color profile overall coming from the Gamut conversion. Second clip here, this is the Gamut conversion LUT SLOG3. This is the color space transform. Here's that little bit overexposed shot of the Chicago skyline here. So this is the Gamut LUT, and that's the color space transform. It's interesting because I feel like you're definitely getting a little bit more of like almost like a dehaze kind of thing that's happening on the actual buildings themselves. So this is the CST, and that's the Gamut. The CST definitely feels like it has a little bit more contrast, especially in those like low midtones. If we bump onto this clip here of my son, this is the Gamut LUT, and that is the color space transform. Now in this one, I really like the Gamut version better here because you are actually retaining some of those shadows. I feel like the colors just look better overall compared to the color space transform. It just feels pretty contrasty. Now, obviously, this is a conversion that you're probably doing at the end of your node chain when you're editing, and so does it super matter? You can definitely compensate for that, but I just kind of like the overall tonality here of that Gamut LUT compared to the CST. This one here is actually really interesting. So if you look at this, this is the Gamut version here. And then if we go over to the CST, you lose all that shadow detail. It feels like actually all the tones change there too. I don't know how well this is actually translating to YouTube with compression and all that, but this is a pretty big difference. I feel like all the shadows here, you have like a nice kind of bluish teal thing happening in the shadows with the trees and all that. And then you move over to the color space transform. All that becomes a lot like oranger and warmer overall. This feels a little bit more accurate to the camera. That's just my opinion, but I really like the Gamut LUT here. We'll go through just another couple ones here. This is the Gamut versus the CST. Gamut versus CST. Definitely getting like a little bit more of those warm tones overall on the color space transform versus the Gamut LUT. This one here is the Gamut and the CST. Gamut and CST, which honestly, I like the CST better for this one. So if we jump back over now, I want to jump over to the R3 version of this. So did the exact same things here in the color page. I just have a CST layer and a Gamut conversion layer. This creative LUT node is not actually functioning yet. That's just for later. So this is literally exactly like what I did with the Sony, except for now this is CLOG3 instead of SLOG3. This is shot on the R3. Let's just go back here to the nodes. I want to show you what the original looks like for this. So this is, log 3 footage straight out of camera. That's with the conversion, straight out of camera with the conversion. These are the Gamut conversions, not the color space transform. This is with the conversion and this straight out of camera log 3 footage. Again, log 3 and with the conversion LUT on it. I'm just gonna show you just the difference. Basically, I just want to show you how this conversion LUT works in a bunch of different footage, just so you can kind of get an idea if this is the kind of LUT pack you would actually want to use on your footage to begin with. But I think honestly, their conversion LUTs do a really good job. I've been really happy with them. So this is CLOG3 footage straight out of camera, and then applying that conversion LUT. So now let's go ahead and jump in and actually compare this to the color space transform inside DaVinci. So again, we have the Gamut layer with the Gamut CLOG3 conversion LUT, and then we have the color space transform layer with the DaVinci color space transform effect added. So Gamut versus the CST. And I think what I was saying earlier about the SLOG3 footage applies here too. Definitely feels like there's a little bit more clarity in those like low midtones. Maybe not necessarily shadows, but I like the way that looks compared to the Gamut version. There's just a little bit more clarity overall in some of those like mid-tone ranges. So this is the Gamut version here, and then the color space transform. And I've mentioned this before, I feel like these shadows have a little bit more blue to them, a little bit more depth overall, versus that CST feels like it's just a little bit more orange in general, and you lose some of that detail in some of those shadows. Obviously, I'm not looking at scopes here. This is just the naked eye, but I think that's a lot of what determines whether or not you're going to buy a LUT is what it actually looks like on the screen, not what the actual like scopes say. You're going to kind of base a lot of those LUT choices on that, and then when you actually edit, then that's when you start looking at scopes and waveforms and all that. So let's go ahead and move on. This is a shot here which obviously has the sun kind of peeking in, so we have a lot of light rays and all that. This is the Gamut version versus the CST. Again, definitely still seeing a little bit more of that like bluish tones in the shadows. I think this one is a really good example of that. You have like these kind of nice creamy blues, teals and stuff in the shadow versus the CST. Feels a lot warmer. Honestly, in this case, I think I would prefer the CST over the Gamut LUT. So I think it just kind of goes back and forth, but there's definitely situations where that CST just doesn't work as much as I would like it to, and I really like the way the Gamut LUT renders this conversion. So again, Gamut, CST, Gamut, CST. Again, this is another one of those ones where I love the way that those shadows get rendered on the Gamut LUT, and honestly even the highlights, because I feel like the highlights on the color space transform just kind of get blown out and washy, versus on the Gamut LUT you have a lot more richness, a lot more like tonal depth overall in the image. So anyway, last one here, this is in the forest, so that's the Gamut conversion LUT, and then this is the color space transform. So anyway, that is the CLOG3 and the SLOG3 conversion LUTs, or they call them base LUTs from Gamut, and how those work. Now I want to walk you through the 606 pack, which is Eric Floberg's pack on Gamut. This is the LUT pack that I by far use the most in my work. I do also own the Sam Newton immersion pack, and I feel like that's a great LUT pack as well, but I feel like it's a little bit less versatile overall, and the 606 LUTs from Eric Floberg just do a really great job at a bunch of different footage, and they're just super versatile overall. And honestly, these LUTs are why I'm making this video, because when I initially started looking for a LUT pack to kind of change my look up and all that, I was really attracted to those 606 LUTs, and I kept hearing a lot of good things about them. But when I was looking at the previews online, they just felt a little bit too intense and a little bit too much. And obviously I was still convinced to purchase them. And when I did purchase them, I realized, wow, these are a lot better than I thought they would be, a lot better than even the previews showed, and a lot more versatile than I thought they would be. And I was really happy with them. I just want to apply these LUTs for you and just show you how these 606 LUTs look on actual footage. So I feel like this clip here is probably not the best example overall because it's a little bit washed out. I would need to do some adjustments in curves to really add some depth to it. Literally, if we just went in and kind of brought down some of these shadows a bit and gave it a little bit just more of an S-curve overall, I think that's a much more accurate representation of how we'd want that footage to look. So this is the Avondale LUT on top of that footage there. Avondale's definitely a more like warm, some of the highlights have a lot of those like creamy brown tones in them. So that's Avondale. This is Belmont. Belmont definitely has a little bit more blue. These are all running at 100%. You could scale these back as much as you wanted to, obviously, but just to kind of give you a feel of the full LUT and how that actually gets applied. That's Belmont. Montrose is the black and white one, which I honestly really like this LUT. I think it's a really cool black and white LUT. This is North Park, which has a lot of blue tones. And then Ravenswood, which honestly I really like the Ravenswood LUT. I feel like that has a really good overall tonality to it. Now I would tone it out a little bit and kind of key that down so it's not quite as intense, but that's how those look. This is CLOG3 footage that we've converted here with the Gamut conversion and then applying these LUTs. So let's go ahead and look through again. Avondale, Belmont, that black and white one, North Park, which is honestly kind of a cool vibe here, and then Ravenswood. Let's keep going through. I want to go through these pretty quickly for you. That feels like you lose a lot. Oh, that's on the conversion. Hold on. There we go. That's a nice look there. Belmont's also really nice. North Park, Ravenswood. Moving on. I keep forgetting the right note here. There we go. That's a really nice look there with the Avondale. Belmont is also really nice. Montrose, it's a little bit high contrast, but you could tone that out if you wanted to, obviously. North Park is pretty vintagey and blue. Ravenswood, actually, honestly, in this case, I wouldn't use this LUT. I would probably go for like the Avondale or the Belmont on this specific clip. Moving on here. Again, oh my gosh, I keep doing this. Avondale, Belmont, that's actually a really nice look. Montrose, that's actually really nice as well. North Park, and Ravenswood. Moving on. That's really cinematic. That's really cool. Belmont. So what that does to the highlights is actually really cool there. North Park, Ravenswood. And then last one here. I keep doing this, oh my gosh. Sorry guys. All right, so just with the conversion and then Avondale on that. That's a really nice look. Belmont, also really nice. Ravenswood feels a little bit too intense for that. Obviously you could dial that back, but I feel like Belmont is really nice, and Belmont's really nice, and Avondale's really nice on those. I'm gonna jump over real quick to my FX3 setup here, and I wanna show you some of the clips from that with these same LUTs applied. And obviously I haven't done any like grading on these clips other than that first one where I just kind of brought in some shadows. So there's a lot more we could do here. Basically though, I just wanna show you the way that these different LUTs actually work on the footage, just so you can kind of get a vibe for how that feels. Avondale, so off, Avondale. Honestly, the Avondale here feels like, with the color space transform, that's kind of what the color space transform feels like, is the Gamut conversion with the Avondale LUT on it. It's kind of interesting. Belmont, Montrose, North Park, and Ravenswood. A couple more here. We'll go really quickly through these. I've honestly really enjoyed this Floberg LUT pack here. I feel like he did a really good job at giving a lot of different variety in LUTs. The black and white LUT obviously is a kind of a specialty LUT here, but I feel like the rest of the shots, Avondale's a little bit more that like moody cinematic vibes. Belmont has a little bit more kind of punch in the highlights and is a little bit cleaner overall. North Park is obviously that super kind of vintagey, antique kind of vibes with all the blue highlights and everything. And then Ravenswood has a little bit more of that saturation and all that as well. So that's how those 606 LUTs work on a variety of different footage, obviously from the R3 and the FX3. Obviously this footage has already been converted using those Gamut CLOG3 and SLOG3 conversion LUTs, and then we're applying these creative LUTs, these 606 LUTs on top of that at the end. I do want to show you one more thing here. I have an 8-bit timeline here with just one clip from my DJI drone, just to kind of show you how these LUTs work on 8-bit footage and on footage that hasn't been converted from log into Rec 709. Honestly, I'm really happy with the way these LUTs look. So if we slap the Avondale LUT on, this looks really great, just like literally as it is. I feel like I wouldn't have to tone that back at all. That's the Avondale LUT. Here's Belmont. Again, that looks really, really clean. Here's Montrose, which again, I feel like this one always feels like those blacks are a little bit too much, and I would have to bring those back a bit, create a node beforehand to lift the blacks, or just do something to kind of tone that back a bit. But it is a really nice preset overall. Here's that North Park, which honestly, in this kind of a lighting situation, this was almost blue hour, feels really, really cool on this specific clip. And then Ravenswood, which has a little bit more of that pop and saturation to it as well. So anyway, hopefully that's a helpful look at the Gamut 606 LUTs and also their SLOG3 and CLOG3 conversion LUTs. If you have any questions about this, feel free to let me know. And if you're interested in purchasing these conversion LUTs or the 606 LUTs for yourself, or honestly anything else from Gamut, check out the link in my description. I'll get a little bit of kickback from that, and that would be greatly appreciated. All right, I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.